Hello, I'm David Gauntlett. If you're watching this video, then you're probably at Transforming Audiences 3, our conference in September 2011, and I'm not. That's strange. I've spent the past year putting together this conference with our wonderful colleagues and PhD students. It looks like a really good one this year with great keynote speakers who I really want to meet, lots of great papers that I want to hear. None of that will be happening because we're having a baby. As you watch this, we've probably just had a baby, or the baby is being born even as I speak, who knows. So on the one hand, congratulations to us, that's good, obviously very pleased about that, but at the same time very sorry that I can't be at the conference. But welcome, I'm very pleased you've all come. Please forgive any jerky edits in this video if it looks a bit rushed. That's because it was a bit rushed. This year we've subtitled the conference Online and Mobile Media, Everyday Creativity and DIY Culture. And when we have these conferences every 2 years, things always do seem to have moved on. And once again things have moved on so that now, and it does seem quite different to 2 years ago even, when we talk about people using the internet or accessing different services, we used to think of that as people sitting down at a computer or people looking at websites on a desktop or laptop computer. Increasingly now it's still that quite often, but also people are doing that kind of stuff on their phones. We all get our phones upgraded so that even if we didn't especially want it, well then suddenly everybody's got the internet on their phone. I'm not saying that people didn't want it, but you know, it comes to people who weren't especially planning to get it just because of the nature of mobile phone upgrades. And so then all of a sudden, then you've got lots of people who are able to access the internet on the move, you know, wherever they find themselves, sometimes using location-based services and the mobile versions of different services and sites, which again, it changes the experience of how you're using the internet. This conference isn't just about the internet necessarily, it's about people engaging with media, so it's broader than that, but obviously we like to be the cutting edge kind of conference, transforming audiences, so it's not about people watching television in the way that they used to watch television some time ago. It's about people engaging with all different kinds of electronic and digital media these days in the way that they do now. So I was thinking about what things I wanted to include in this short video, just introducing some sort of starter points for the conference. And obviously I'll be making points in connection with my own interests. And because I'm not there, I won't be able to talk to you about my book, Making is Connecting, too much. But I'll just do one little bit. The book is about people making things, both offline and online, and trying to see continuities in what people have said about the nature of creativity and people making things, from Victorian philosophers such as John Ruskin and William Morris, through Ivan Illich talking about people having tools to shape their lives and to express themselves within their lives, and that being a kind of crucial thing for people to be able to do, to be sort of actually fulfilled and happy and engaged in society. You need the tools to be able to do that. It's not just a luxury, it's a necessity. And I'm talking about creativity not in the way that people sometimes seem to talk about creativity in the internet, where you get the impression that they think the internet has actually caused creativity to suddenly happen, and it didn't happen before. Suddenly the internet comes up and everybody's creative. I'm not making that kind of point. Instead I'm tracing more of a continuity of people being creative across time, but seeing the internet as an amplifier, and obviously it's a big distribution platform which people simply didn't have before. Nowadays you can share the stuff you make much more easily than you could before, and also you can make connections with other people who like the kind of stuff that you like and have the interests and concerns that you have in a way that you could do before but was much more difficult. The internet makes those kind of things much more straightforward, obviously. That's a basic point about the internet. So one of the points I wanted to make was that I think people being creative and making things and sharing them online, it's not just a nice thing. It's not just a sort of pretty, pleasant thing for individuals to do. It is a nice thing for individuals to do, but it's not just that. I think it is a significant political kind of thing when you magnify up each of those individual acts. Each individual act might seem quite banal or uninteresting. You know, somebody makes a blog post about a train, somebody makes a video about some knitting, and somebody sings a song. They're all small things. And for those academic colleagues that we have who see themselves as dealing with big political questions, it's easy for them to dismiss this kind of stuff as kind of trivia. But I don't think it is trivia. I think it's very interesting and potentially powerful, because each of those different granules of activity, that may be small, but these things all build up into a big mountain of activity and creativity, and in particular people choosing to make things rather than just consume the stuff they're given. People making things themselves rather than consuming the stuff they're given. Every time somebody decides to do that, I think it's interesting and significant, and it's a small thing very often, but all of those small things build up, you know, times 1 million, times 2 million, times 3 million, into the start of a sea change. People who are critical about Web 2.0 point out that the numbers of people who are actually being creative with these tools and services is quite a small percentage, and you know that's true. But look at how it's increased compared to 5 or 10 years ago, and it absolutely goes whoosh, you know. And I see no particular reason to think that it's just going to level off at the sort of numbers we have at the moment. So it's the start of something, and you know, I think it's more political and interesting and significant than some people like to make out. At this point, I might as well just also mention those. There seems to be a sort of growing number of critics of Web 2.0 and the people who are in any way enthusiastic about Web 2.0, and they take a purely economic lens, and they point out the ways in which the economic value that can be extracted from the distribution of creative online material is kept by some companies who do that, and is not shared with the individuals, not always, or not often shared with the individuals who've made that content. And that critique is true, but it doesn't get you very far. That economic lens doesn't get you very far because people's motivations are not primarily economic for this kind of activity. People are making and sharing stuff with people that they know or people that they don't know but they might like to make connections with for, you know, a range of personal reasons which are not really to do with wanting to make money from that stuff. The economic lens just doesn't help you there. So the critique about how companies are harvesting data about people's online activity and the way in which they make profit off the back of people's creative activities, those arguments are frequently correct. You know, that critique is fine, but it doesn't help you understand what's really going on. And it's often patronising and even rude about those people who make and share online content. I've heard them described at a conference, for example, as people doing loser-generated content, and all the academics go, ha ha ha, you know, loser-generated content. What fools these people are, because of the economic reason that they're not making any money from the content that they're sharing. But they're not sharing content because they want to make money. So the academics smugly laughing and feeling pleased with themselves are just wrong and not helping to understand what real people are doing, and they're being offensive about the activities of real people as well. So that kind of thing, not so helpful, I think. In Making is Connecting, I looked at studies that explore the motivations of people who make stuff in the real world. People who make machines, robots, jewellery, craft stuff, anything like that. And I also looked at studies of people who make and share stuff online. And I pulled those findings all together. That's not hard because the findings are similar. What they find is, number one, people just like the experience of making things. It offers pleasure and reflection, and sort of affirms the sense of self as an active, creative agent in the world. Number two is about the connections with other people, and is about feeling alive in the world as an active participant within communities of people who share your interests. And number three sounds similar but is slightly different, and is about being recognised by a community of like-minded people, people who share your interests and concerns. And people not only wanted the pleasure of making things, and not only wanted the pleasure of being engaged with a group of people who share their concerns, but also thirdly they wanted to be recognised by those people as someone with something to contribute. And those three things together explain the motivations of people making stuff offline and people making stuff online. That's probably all I've really got time to say, but I suppose the most striking thing, as I've been going to different conferences and venues and places talking about making is connecting, is it really does seem to be about this kind of creativity which has, as I say, been more unleashed and amplified by the tools that we have now, that we didn't have before. It's people doing stuff because they want to, and it's people making a choice to make things for themselves rather than just having what they're given. And I think that's a significant turn, or the start of a turn, in how people deal with media compared to the 20th century, which was absolutely have what you're given kind of media landscape. I think we're starting to move away from that. I think it's interesting and exciting and powerful and political, and there's so much for us to get our teeth into. I just want to say thank you to my co-organisers and PhD students, and Pete Goodwin and Helen Cohen, who've helped organise this conference and who are now running it so very beautifully, I hope, and to the organisations who have helped us publicise the event, and to Polity Press, who have very kindly sponsored that wine reception which you'll enjoy this evening. So I hope the conference goes really well. I hope you'll maybe email me or let me know how things went. I'll obviously be catching up with some of the stuff, and I hope to hear from as many of you as possible, and hope it goes well. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.